Hi, welcome back from spring break. Today we're going to be just doing some review. We're going to review how to interpret variables, and we're going to review how to put things into standard form because we really struggled with that on our last lesson before break. Some updates and announcements. E-learning is required every single day, so make sure that you are logging on every day, but now that has changed to Monday through Thursday. Fridays you should be using to finish up anything you didn't get done during the week or to go back and do any missing work. If you ever have any questions, I'm just an email away. Email me at bmcneely@riversidehighschool.org. You want to make sure you're submitting your work with the correct teacher. Mr. Holden and Ms. McNeely have different links for assignments. Mr. Holden has his own haiku page. If you don't know who Mr. Holden is because you're in my class, then that means you've been doing the right thing. You can find the link at the top of Mrs. McNeely's haiku page to get to Mr. Holden's new haiku page. For now, all assignments can still be submitted. If you haven't done so already, go back and complete any missing assignments from quarter 3 or from the e-learning quarter. I can still take any missing assignments that you might have, but this might not last forever based on what Ms. Dorsey is deciding. All right, we've made some changes to how IP is going to be graded. IP will now be graded for correctness, not completion, but partial credit will still be given. Remember, we're not giving tests, so I have to have some way to gauge whether or not you understand the material or not. The fix to that is if you don't do well in assignment, come to some office hours and redo any IP that you aren't happy with. All IP will now be worth 10 points in the gradebook, regardless of how many points are possible on the assignment. So here's how this will work. Let's say on an assignment there are 35 possible points and you get 27 of those correct. Here's what I will do. I will divide 27 by 35, which gives you 0.771. You're going to move the decimal point one place to the right and round. So this becomes 7.7 out of 10 in the gradebook. I'm doing this so that you can more easily see how you're doing. Anything that is a 9 or above is an A. Between an 8 and an 8.9 is a B. Between a 7 and a 7.9 is a C. And anything below that is an NG, and you should be redoing that so you can get your credit. Remember, you can do this. This is mostly, your grade for this second half is mostly going to be based on whether or not you can do the work. It's not going to be based on any tests. So if you show up and do the work, come to office hours and redo anything you don't do well on, there's no reason why you should end this semester with a not passing grade. At this point, everybody should be using their Riverside email address. That email is firstname.lastname@riversidehighschool.org. This makes it much easier for you to access your materials, and it allows me to contact you reliably if necessary. All of your emails are stored in our system, but if you aren't checking that, then you aren't getting the emails that I'm sending out. If you are currently not using that email and don't know how, please email me and I can easily help you set that up. We can probably fix it in one day. From now on, all Google Forms will require you to use your Riverside email address. If you can't submit, it is likely because you are not logged into your Gmail. Some reminders that office hours are still going to be held Monday through Thursday from 11 to 12. The link can be found at the top of the haiku page. If you need more one-on-one help or you're not comfortable coming to office hours, all you need to do is email me. I have plenty of time to get with you and we'll work on it together. Shout out to Ely, Andreas, Michelle, Creighton, and LJ for attending office hours before spring break. I miss all of your faces, so even if you don't need help, stop by an office hour to say hello. Hey, all you cool cats and kittens. Anyone watch Tiger King over spring break? All of my group texts have now become Tiger King discussion groups. What are you watching or reading right now? Share in the struggles and celebration box, or let me know what else is going on in your life. All right, some of you are struggling with your grades and you're wondering why. So before we start, I wanted to give you some strategies for success on this lesson. The first one is you should be completing these lessons in order. If you have not yet done previous e-learning assignments, I want you to stop this video now. I want you to go back to the beginning of the e-learning. You should be able to see that on the left-hand side of the haiku page. You can click on previous weeks and do the assignments in order. As you do those assignments in order, make sure you are watching the video. It is clear to me based on some of your IP submissions that you are just trying to do the IP without watching the video. That would be like you trying to do your IP if you just missed a bunch of class without getting any extra help. You also want to make sure that you're taking notes to refer to while you complete your assignment. If you don't have your pencil and paper out right now, I want you to pause your video and go get your materials. You need to be writing this down somewhere. You don't have to write down every step, but you do need to be making yourself some notes so that when it's time for you to do your IP, you have something to refer to rather than going back to the video. If you're doing all those things and still struggling, I want you to think about when the video says pause and try the problems on your own. Do you actually do that? If you don't, your brain is not getting a chance to practice those problems before you're trying to do these on your own, and that's not the way our brains work. You need to be able to try those, make a mistake, and then watch the video and see where your mistakes will happen. Don't forget that if you're unhappy with your grade after you submit, just email me for help and resubmit for a better grade. Remember, assignments are now graded on correctness, not completion. You put IDK or you leave blanks, you just get a 0 for that. And if you get it wrong and you don't show mini work or you don't get some partial credit, then you also get a 0 for that. I wanted to go over an IP problem from last time that we struggled with. This was number 17 from your IP, and you were supposed to be writing your equation in standard form. Well, remember, standard form is ax plus by is equal to c. So the x and the y are on the same side of the equal sign, and the constant is all by itself. So if we look at this one, I notice that the x's are on the wrong side of the y's. They should be moved over to the other side. But I also remember that I'm not supposed to have fractions, so I can't have any fractions in this. So the first thing I'm going to do is multiply everything by the common denominator. Well, there's only one denominator, that's 3. So I'm going to multiply every term by 3. 3 times y, 3 times 2/3 x, and 3 times 4. 3 times y just becomes 3y. Here, 3 divided by 3 becomes 1. 1 times 2 is 2, so that's 2x. And 3 times 4 becomes 12. It's still not in standard form. We've gotten rid of our fractions, but we don't have the x and the y on the same side like this one up here does. So I want to move the 2x to the other side using subtraction. So I'm going to subtract 2x from each side. I get negative 2x plus 3y equals 12. Now, I've got it organized in the way that it shows here. I've got a number with an x plus a number with a y equal to a number by itself. The problem is the number with the x is supposed to be positive and it's not. So I'm going to rewrite my problem up here so you can see better. What we're going to do is divide everything on both sides by -1. Remember, addition and subtraction can only be done to like terms, but we can multiply or divide anything. All this does is change the sign of everything. -2 divided by -2 is positive 2. Excuse me, -2 divided by -1 is positive 2. 3 divided by -1 is -3. And 12 divided by -1 is -12. Now this is standard form. I've got a number with an x, a number with a y, equal to a number by itself. There's no fractions or decimals, and the first number is positive. That's how you should have been doing these, and we're going to get some more review in on this today. Right now, I want you to pause your video and complete the bell work below. Remember, it's really important to keep practicing these problems so that you don't forget everything while we're gone. I'll go over some solutions if you get stuck. So now that you've paused, I want you to rewrite this equation in slope-intercept form. Well, remember, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So y should be isolated. So the first thing I'm going to do is move the term with the x to the other side. I use addition because it's already a negative, so the opposite would be a positive. This is going to become 3y equals 2x plus 12. I'm going to divide everything by 3. So I end up getting y equals 2/3 x plus 4. Now it's in standard form because y is alone, and I've got my number with my x plus a number with it by itself. It's perfectly okay to have a fraction for your slope. Now I want you to rewrite this equation in standard form. So that's different from slope-intercept form. That's what we were just working on the review problem, where we have a number with an x plus a number with a y equal to a number by itself, and we can't have any fractions. So I'm going to start by multiplying everything by 5. This becomes 5y. Here the 5's cancel because 5 divided by 5 is 1, and 1 times 3 is 3x, and 5 times 7 is 35. Still not in slope-intercept form because I want to get the number with the x and the number with the y on the same side. To move the 3x to the other side, it's a positive 3, so I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. I get negative 3x plus 5y equals negative 35. And then remember, a has to be positive, so I'm going to divide both sides by -1, and that changes the sign on everything. So I have 3x minus 5y equals 35. Nice job. Let's try another one. Let's start with some review, actually. So during this time of social distancing, Mr. and Mrs. McNeely decide to rent some kayaks. The kayak rental service charges a $20 transportation fee and $30 per hour to rent the kayaks. Can we use a mathematical model to decide how much this is going to cost Mr. and Mrs. McNeely, depending on the hours that they're going to kayak? So remember, it's going to be costing us a $20 transportation fee and $30 an hour to rent the kayaks. This becomes easier if we remember that we have slope-intercept form to substitute into. Slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. If we can identify our slope and we can identify our y-intercept, remember m stands for the slope, b stands for the y-intercept, this becomes much easier. But we're struggling to identify which one is the slope and which one is the y-intercept. So the slope is a rate of change, something that is happening over and over at regular intervals. In a word problem, we can look for keywords like each, per, and every. That's your clue that you are looking at the slope, each, per, or every. So I want you to pause this video right now, and I want you to try to identify your slope. You should have noticed that this says $30 per hour. That means over and over and over, I'm going to be charged $30 per hour. So my slope here is m equals 30. Now, remember that b stands for our y-intercept. B stands for the beginning. It's the beginning amount, a one-time fee or a flat rate, something that's just being charged one time or something that's just happening one time. Right now, I want you to pause the video and try to identify your y-intercept in the reading. You should have said that the y-intercept was the $20 transportation fee. They're not going to charge us to carry our kayaks a bunch of times. It's just going to be one time. So we have a one-time fee of $20, which is our y-intercept. Now that we know our slope and our y-intercept, we can substitute into our slope-intercept form. So remember, we found that our m was the 30 because it said $30 per hour, and we found that our b was 20 because that was a one-time fee. And so now I should be able to substitute right in here, y equals mx plus b. Go ahead and try that now. You should have said that y equals 30x plus 20. Good job. Now, can we identify what x and y stand for here? I want you to remember that x goes with your slope, which we found by looking for the words per, each, and every. I want you to look for the word that comes after per, each, or every. That will usually be what the x stands for. Go ahead and pause your video now and try to identify what your x stands for. You should have looked for the word per and seen right after that it's per every hour. So it's $30 per hour, which means X is our hours renting the kayaks. Yeah. All right, now we want to be able to identify our y value. Remember that the y value is different from our y-intercept. The y-intercept is our starting amount, but there could be lots of different y values. The y variable usually stands for some kind of total. I want you to look at your units on the slope and the y-intercept. 20 what? 30 what? In this case, those units are dollars, $20 and $30. We're adding those together to get y. Now, pause the video and try to identify what the y variable stands for. In this case, you shouldn't have said dollars. You should have said it's the total cost to rent kayaks. Y is usually some kind of total. It doesn't have to be money, but in this case it is because our units on the 20 and the 30 are money, so it must be our total cost there. The point of writing an equation is to use it to solve problems. Let's try to use our model, y equals 30x plus 20, to find out how much it's going to cost the McNeelys to rent the kayaks for 5 hours. Remember, x stood for a number of hours. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, and you're going to want to go to part 2 of the video on the Haiku page.